Most investors are going to be like, how am I sure my money is secured? Am I putting it into the government? Well, where is the money going to? Does this process involve the government?
Because we are dealing in the umbrella of securities, you can't use the word guarantee. I'm guarantee that your money's going to be safe, and it's like betting on a stock. So anytime you go out and get a foreign investor who's using their money, then you're going by the rules of the Security and Exchange Commission.
Welcome to another episode of Building Wealth with Femi. In this podcast, we'll meet a lot of people who have been successful in, their various industry, and we learn from them their challenges and their wins. The whole idea is to learn and understand how they have made it in their various sector. We also want to get information from them on what they're doing in their businesses. Today we have Jerry Clark. Jerry Clark is the principal of SAA Cedisus EB-5 project, and the EB-5 project is a U.S. government immigration project that is designed to help high net worth individual to fasten their immigration into the U.S., whereby they're going to start businesses and employ people in the U.S. And we want to learn a few about how that works with Jerry, and he's going to be giving us an idea of what this is about. So, Jerry, it's so nice having you on this program. I'm so happy you accepted my invitation. Yeah, so how's it been?
It's been going good. I appreciate you having me on today.
Great, 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 great. So, could you just give us a background of how you got into this business? What motivated you to get into being a EB-45 consultant?
Just a little bit about my history so people can kind of get a feel for, who I am and what I'm about. Like you said, I am the principal of SAA Cedisus EB-5 Projects, which is an immigration consulting firm. And I'm also the principal of SAAC International Placement, which places international students into various colleges and universities across the United States. I am a lifetime certified purchasing manager through the Institute of Supply Management, along with being a certified DDI facilitator through Development Dimensions International. My past awards have included the Indiana Minority Supplier Development Council's recipient for the Special Recognition for Outstanding Volunteer Service Award and the President's Award recipient for contribution to economic development from the Evansville, Indiana chapter of the NAACP. I am a graduate of Ivy Tech Community College, ITT Technical Institute, and the University of Southern Indiana, all with a focus on information technology. I was initially exposed to the immigration services arena several years ago when someone actually invited me to a luncheon. And at that time, I learned a little bit about EB-5, but it wasn't until like a year later that I actually engaged in the EB-5 arena, and I've been going strong in it ever since.
No, that's a lot. So what exactly is EB-5? Can you explain to us what we're talking about here?
The EB stands for employment based. So it's basically employment based immigration. And when people normally get involved on the employment based side, it's generally EB-5 or EB-1. So one of those two. And we can jump into that, or, if you want to ask some additional questions prior to, we can do that as well.
Well, I mean, what's the difference between EB-5 and EB-1? I know it's an immigration program that, allows, like you said, allows high net worth people to come into the US and set up businesses. But can you tell us the difference between those two, EB-5 and EB-1?
On the EB-5 side, An investor can strictly just invest their funds into what we call a qualified EB-5 project. And they don't need to be running a business in the U.S. They just making their money available.
Okay.
And we tell people if three things happen, then they've had a good EB-5 experience. One is they end up getting a green card for themselves and their family. Two, they get their initial investment back. And three, they get a small return on investment, normally 2 to 5%. And if all three of those things happen, they've had a good EB-5 experience. And the current USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, minimum is $800,000 to participate in the EB-5 program. Now, on the EB-1 side, we cater to what's called the EB-1C type investor, which are managers or executives in their respective firms. Now, for us to even talk about EB-1 with a potential investor or client, they must have worked in their business for at least 1 year out of the last 3 years. They must have managed a reasonable amount of individuals, and their firm must be at least 1 year old. So if those three things occur, then I will have a conversation with them about the EB-1C option to be able to use that and get a green card as well.
Let me get this right. The EB-1 option, the people that can apply must have worked in their country, not in the US,
That
right?
is correct.
For 1 year, did you say?
For at least 1 year out of the last 3 years.
Okay.
So okay, that's one of the criteria. And their business must be at least 1 year old. And they need, if you're coming over under the umbrella of a manager and executive, you're going to have managed some people. So at some point, the immigration attorney is going to say, well, show me the flow chart of how many people you've actually managed so we can make sure that you really are a manager or an executive.
So if I get you right, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to come in through the EB-1. You could have been working in a big organization or something and managing a lot of people. You can
That's
come
correct.
in, you can be qualified to come in with the EB-1. You don't have to own your business.
Well, that's the criteria. Yes, that is correct. You can work for a big company, and then when you actually come over, you can actually start your own business as long as that company you work for is willing to what they say sponsor you. And
Okay.
sponsorship, I mean, there's no risk involved in saying I sponsor this individual to come over as a manager or an executive, and once they do, they can start their own business if they choose to, and that business can be whatever you choose for it to be. So you could be an engineer in a large firm in Nigeria, and when you come over and start a new business, it could be a grocery store. So it doesn't have to be what you've done before.
Okay. So if I get it right, on the EB-5, you said they got to be an investor, somebody that has to, he's not particularly setting up a business, but he has the funds to invest in a business in the US.
That is
That's
correct.
that's the EB-5
Right. Well, it's invest in a project.
project.
So, in a project.
Okay.
So, in order to be considered a qualified EB-5 project, it's there are a lot of steps involved in so you just can't say, I'm going to build a subdivision. Can I get some EB-5 investors? It doesn't work like that. You have to go through this process with the government to get that project approved as a qualified EB-5 project, and then you can go out and get investors to invest into that.
Okay, so EB-5 is basically for investors that want to invest in projects in the US. It could be a real estate project like a subdivision, a little estate, or some kind of development. It could be an IT project. It could be oil and gas project. It could be anything. just investors that have money they want to invest, and it has to be minimum of about 800,000. Did you say?
Yes, but it has to be a qualified EB-5 project. So
Okay,
there are, yes, so there are a list of qualified EB-5 projects, and then those projects are put in front of that investor, and the
okay,
investor actually selects the one that they actually want to invest in.
okay. So the
Okay.
government has a list of projects that they can invest in.
Well, the government doesn't. It's more of a developer or someone like myself who says, here are the projects that we are exposed to.
Okay.
And we look at those and we say, what's the history of this developer? Have they, is there history that when they start a project, do they actually finish it? What's their track record? And, if their track record's bad, we're not going to put that project in front of that investor as one of the options to choose from. So we're doing some work on our own before that investor even knows about that particular project.
So that leads me to a very important question. Most investors are going to be like, how am I sure my money is secured? Are you telling me to just drop my money with somebody? Am I putting it into the government? Well, where is the money going to? Does this process involve the government or just all individuals?
Well, by the project itself being a qualified project, the government is putting their stamp on it, saying it's been checked out. Okay. On the EB-1 side, you're looking at basically the broker dealer who's putting their reputation behind a particular project that's being created. Because if you look at someone like myself, I'm a registered representative who's sponsored by a broker dealer. Okay, so the broker dealer is putting his or her reputation on the line, and I'm putting my reputation on the line to say, hey, this project's okay. And when an investor is going to invest in that project, then there's a sense of security that okay, this thing's been checked out. Now, because we're dealing in the umbrella of securities, you know, you can't use the word like guarantee. I'm guarantee that your money's going to be safe and you're going to get it back. Whatever. It's like betting on a stock. If you bet on a stock, there's no guarantee that you're going to make a profit on that. So it's a security. So we're working in the area of securities here. So anytime you go out and get a foreign investor who's using their money, then you're going by the rules of the Security and Exchange Commission.
Okay, so basically, you're saying the Security and Exchange Commission regulates has is part of the people that regulate the institution that regulates this whole thing.
Yeah, Securities and Exchange Commission. Uh, FINRA is another organization called FINRA, which also has rules and regulations around what we can and can't do and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And, even communications between me and you as a potential investor. A broker dealer's responsibility is to monitor our communications to make sure that I'm not saying something to you that would get us in trouble. That's
Okay.
basically outside the umbrella of what the Security and Exchange Commission will allow, like using words like guarantee. So that's a no-no.
So I mean, you don't guarantee like it's like buying shares in a company. They're doing business, so there's a risk involved. It's not guaranteed that that company is going to be successful. So you can't use the word "I guarantee you." It's a risk. You have equity in the business, basically. Okay.
Right.
So what reasons would anybody want to buy into this project? Why would anybody want a green card in the U.S.?
Well, the number one reason someone would want a green card is education for their children, to get their kids into the U.S. Um, so that's been the number one reason for a number of years now. Some of the other reasons are an individual is able to work and in any industry anywhere in the United States once they have a green card. Also, they're able to travel back and forth in and out of the U.S. much easier than people with other type of visas. And also, once they've gotten that green card, then they're able to sponsor other family members to come over as well as being the primary person uh, because they now have a green card as well.
Okay. I always hear the word accredited investor, that you have to be an accredited investor if you're
Yes.
involved in this kind of um, projects.
Mhm.
What does it mean to be an accredited investor?
All right. The official definition, and I'll read that to you. To be considered an accredited investor, one must have a net worth of at least $1 million US, excluding their primary residence, or have income at least $200,000 each year for the last 2 years, or $300,000 combined income if married, and the expectation to make the same amount the following year. So that's a definition of an accredited investor.
Okay, so we're talking about their net worth here. They must be worth a certain amount in dollars.
Yeah, and the thought process there is, if your net worth is X, then, you're pretty much savvy when it comes to money.
You understand the
So
dynamics of making money.
yes, exactly.
Mhm. Okay. What so if somebody yeah, if someone gets into this program, what kind of green card options will be available for them?
Uh, the ones that we work in primarily are the EB-5 and EB-1. And, so we have dealt in some of the other areas, but those are the two primary ones. I've been asked before, are you in the visa business? And the answer is no, we're not in the visa business. We're in the green card business. And there are a lot of non-immigrant visas that are out there and available for people, like the business visa, the tourist visa, the B1, the B2, that kind of thing. We don't deal with that. The type of visas we deal with are considered a stepping stone to get to a green card.
Okay.
So it's considered dual intent type visas. So if you get this particular visa, then you can use that to go to the next step in order to get a green card. Those are the type of visas we use.
No, which means that once you get into the program and they give you a visa to go to the US, that's a stepping stone to get a green card. Basically, is that what you're saying?
On the EB-1 side, when the person's application gets submitted, they're going after what they call an L1 non-immigrant visa. So that L1 is a dual intent type visa. So once they get the L1, it allows the actual investor and their family to come to the US. They can buy a home, their kids can go to school, they can do all that kind of stuff. But they must hold on to that L1 for at least 12 months before they can apply for the actual green card. So that visa again is a stepping stone to get to the green card process.
The EB that takes me to the EB-1. The EB-1, I know we spoke about the EB-5 and we're saying you need about 800K USD to invest in the US.
Mhm.
The EB-1, you also said you don't really have to be an entrepreneur, but how much would you need if you wanted to go into the EB-1 program?
Yeah. Most of the time, a person who goes to the EB1C that we actually deal with most of the time for managers or executives, they create their own business. So they do want to be an entrepreneur. And the investment amount can range, and there's no legal minimum amount, but it can range anywhere from like 50,000 to several $1 million, depending on the type of U.S. business that they're trying to set up. If it's like a consulting firm, it's going to be a lot less. And I've found that uh, individuals coming out of Africa, they want to set up car washes. and I do my best to talk them out of that because now you're getting into several $1,000,000 to
Oh,
set up a car wash.
it's
You know,
expensive.
yeah, very
Mm.
expensive. So if you look at creating or having a automatic wash bay and 5 self-serve bays, that's going to cost you a good $2.5 million minimum. So I say for going after your green card and for that application, do something simple so that you don't run into complications. Like uh, going after and trying to set up a car wash, because now you're getting into permits and delays and all those unknowns. And is it going to impact your outcome of trying to get your green card? So don't introduce those type of things. So do something simple. Make it an offshoot of something you're already doing uh, in your home country, or something, even some type of consulting or something like that on that won't tie you down, basically. So the simpler the better. And once you got the green card, then you can set up any kind of business you want to in the U.S. So if you want to get into the car wash at that point, then go for it. It's not tied to you trying to get your green card to come to the U.S.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, look for a simple business, and once you get in, you can actually pivot to another business, and you're saying just you can, as low as $50,000, you can use that to start a business in the U.S. and going through the EB1.
Yes, and like I said, there's no legal minimum amount,
Okay,
but 50,000 to whatever, it's reasonable.
should be do. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So, you know what I do? I'm a real estate developer. I build homes, spec
Right.
homes. I build
Right.
subdivisions and all that. For someone like me, how do I benefit? And I do that in the US. Let me put in that. How do I benefit from this kind of project, from this EB-5 or EB-1 project?
With both options, an investor can look to basically build wealth by investing in a U.S. project. Now, for a developer on the EB-5 side, you can go through the process of getting your project actually certified or qualified as an EB-5 project. So once you do that, then accredited investors can invest into that project. It's a long process. It's a little expensive, but it can be done. And plenty of people have done that. On the EB-1 side, once an investor has uh, gone through, set up their business, and then they say, okay, as an offshoot of that, I want to invest in a Roston investment type project, and we can do that as well. And that was something we've talked about, and that was the kind of the roadmap that we were looking to actually execute going forward here this year.
Interesting. This is very informative. So, we're getting to the end of the program. What question do you think I should have asked you that I didn't ask you on this projects?
The one question that I get quite often is, uh, can we, meaning my company, ensure the investor that they will receive a green card if they start doing business with us? And the answer is no. And the reason is, if you think about it, up until you start working with us, you're providing information to us, and we're putting that on their profile. And I don't know if they're, being truthful with me on the information they provided, or if they're actually intentionally not telling me information because they've got some bad history. I don't know, but I only can go by what they told me up to that point. So I'm going to take that information and share it with my immigration attorney to see if she can build a good case around the information that she currently has for that investor. And if she can, we're going to continue with the process. And if she can't, we're going to go back to that investor or that potential investor and say, hey, we don't think that's going to work. We're going to pass. And we've passed on people in the past. And so no money has been exchanged up to that point. And it hasn't cost them anything to find out if we think we can actually build a good case for them, because we want to make sure at the end of the day, it's going to be a win-win type proposition for not only the investor, but for us as well. Because if the investor's happy, they end up getting a green card for themselves and their family, then they've won and we've won because we've done our job.
Okay, so you're saying in the process of starting off this application for the EB-1 or the EB-5, no money will be exchanged on the initial until the application has been approved. Is that what you're saying?
Well, on the EB1 side, that's what I'm saying, because no application, if the no application is going out the door uh, before the immigration attorney has looked and decided whether or not she thinks she can do something with this particular investor.
Okay.
Okay. Now, on the EB-5 side, your application doesn't get submitted until your investment funds have been acquired.
Okay.
So
Acquired
they're going
means
to
getting to the U.S. until you
no,
funds.
meaning they've actually made that $800,000 available.
Okay.
So no submission is going to take place until we've got the actual investment funds from the investor.
What? Oh, you. So the funds goes to who? Who gets the fund?
Well, the developer, they
Oh.
would, so that they're investing into that developer's
Okay.
project is what's
Okay.
happening. So the developer is looking to raise, let's say, $5 million.
Okay.
Okay. So for each investor is investing $800,000, then, that's going to limit on how many actual EB-5 investors they can go after.
Okay.
So, you know, if that investor says, yeah, I like that project, I want to invest in that project, then that's one investor down and maybe, two or three more to go.
Okay.
So, it all depends on what project they select, but the money is going into the project that the investor that the actual investor has selected up front.
So if the money goes into to the investor and they don't get this EB-5, is it possible that they don't get the EB-5 after the money has gone to the developer?
That's where the risk comes into play. But if we've done our homework properly, we're going to make sure that that developer has been properly vetted and checked out, and it's kind of a way of, I guess, feeling more comfortable that what this particular developer, once they've started a project, they're going to finish it.
Okay.
So once that project has been finished, then the investor, like I said earlier, they're going to get their investment back
With some
with
interest as
some
well.
with some interest on it. Right, exactly. And they've also ended up with the actual green card that they were after in the first place.
Okay.
Now, I had an individual out of Africa. I think he was out of Nigeria, actually. He qualified for the EB-1 option, which it's faster and it's cheaper because it only takes like you make 2 to 3 years to go through the EB1 option versus maybe 5 to 7 on the EB5 side. And he qualified for EB1, but he didn't want to fool with the business. He said, no, I got the money. I want to do EB-5. So just do EB-5, invest the funds, and just sit back and wait and let things happen. So that's certainly his option. But he could have gone the faster route with EB-1, but he chose not to.
So on the EB-5 side, they don't have to bring out the fund until they have been vetted and they're sure that they can fly through the program and they will most likely succeed in getting the EB-1 approval. That's when they come up with a fund. That's easier and more straightforward than the
Okay.
EB-5.
Yeah, you said EB-5 and EB-1
Right.
in the same question. So I think you meant EB-1 throughout
Yeah,
that
yeah,
question.
yeah. So I
But
said
yeah,
on
on
the
the
side of the
EB-1
EB1.
side,
So I'm saying that's easier because it's less costly, maybe 50,000 and above, and you don't have to bring the money forward until your application has, almost gotten through or has gotten through, has been approved.
no, that's not what I said. On the EB-1 side, no money is, we don't take any money from an investor until uh, we've actually run their initial information past the immigration attorney.
Okay.
And she's confident that she can build a good case to put
Case.
into their packet for submission and be successful with it.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
from an attorney standpoint, they don't want to be bogged down with USCIS coming back with questions. Okay, that delays things. They have to spend more time on that application. And if it's a troublesome type application or
They're gonna throw
information
it
that
out
they're
of the window.
seeing, they're going to pass on
Okay.
it.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you. That's good. Thank you so much for being on this program. It was quite informative. Um, all the information you gave us is quite useful, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to know more about that. Um, is there a way people can reach out to you to get to know more about this program?
Yes. If you want to get in touch, you can go to our website, which is www.saacedisus.com and click on the Contact Us link. That's www.saacedisus.com.
So thank you very much for coming on my program, Jerry Clark. I appreciate your time. So that was another episode of Building Wealth with Femi, and it was quite informative. Learning about those two programs, EB-5 and EB-1, for high net worth individual that wants to immigrate into the U.S. To set up businesses. If you want to know more as well, if you reach out to Jerry or you can reach out to me, my website is www.femirogers.com. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you very much.